Kwame Yasharal. That means Israel rise. Right? All praise be to the Most High Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. Give me 1 Timothy chapter 1 and verse number 17. Right? Let's give the Lord his due honor and his due glory first and foremost. Right? Bring that up. Right? Because we come out here every Sabbath day, right? Whether it's dead or not, to teach our people who they are, or we might just be coming to prophesy to the wind. Right? You never know. It could be one sheep. It could be somebody on a scooter. Right? It could be somebody on a Ferris wheel just looking. Right? Wondering. Right? So we come out here as a show, as an example, because the Lord tells us we got to be examples to the flock. 1 and 17. Right? Bring it up.
1 Timothy chapter 1 verse 17. Now unto the King eternal.
Right, the Most High, he's that King eternal. Right, he's the only one we bow down to. We don't bow down to man because we're not afraid of man. Right, we don't fear what man can do unto us because we understand the Most High, he creates man. The Most High, he's the puppet master. Right, he's pulling the strings. Keep going.
Immortal, invisible, the only wise God.
What's going on, King? Right, the Lord is immortal and invisible. So who are we to crack at what a mortal man who could die in an instant, in a blink of an eye, can do to us? Right, when we have the Most High God. The Most High God called us his kids. Right, that's not saying we just friends. I hang around you. I treat you like a child. Not you. Even though I'm facing this, I treat somebody like my child. That means they're very close to me. Right, they're near and dear to me. Right, I can treat this brother like my best friend. Right, but if I treat somebody like my own kid, that's on another level. Right. So Lord says we are his children. Right? Keep going.
Invisible, the only wise God, be honor and glory. Be honor and glory forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. So be it. That's it. Be honor and glory to the Lord forever and ever. Right? Even in the kingdom. Amen. Right? So let's get a Psalm, the 73rd chapter.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 73, in verse 1. Truly God is good to Israel.
He's good to Israel. So when the heathen come up, they're kind of looking at the sign, which is sad, by the way. They're looking at the sign. They're interested in learning. Well, first and foremost, that's why we tap into the nationality. That's a lot of people. They get offended. They say, why is it about race? We didn't say nothing about race. Right? We say, nationality is about race. We say, what's your nationality? And we go from there. Right? And if you ain't, they think of color. Right? They think it's a white versus black thing. But really, your color really got nothing to do with it. Because Israel is a speckled bird. Ephraim is a cake not turned. You got light-skinned Puerto Ricans and dark-skinned Colombians. Right? You got people that look like me in South America, Central and South America. Right? You got people that look like, a so-called white woman, right, that look just like us. So Jake is bugged out. Right? So you got people of all types of races, or not races, but all types of colors, different types of sides of the spectrum, but they all fall into this category of who they are, which is the Israelites. Right? Keep going.
It says, this is the book of Psalms, chapter 73, continuing on verse 1. Even to such as are of a clean heart. But as for me, my feet were almost gone.
This is David. Right? David was righteous in the sight. One of the few men that the Lord said was righteous. Right? And he said, as for me, my feet were what?
But as for me, my feet were almost gone.
David said, I was almost out of here. I was almost a goner. I was almost falling out this thing. Right? Back then, I highly doubt they was calling it the truth. Right? We call it the truth because our people don't know who they are. Right? So we call it the truth. Back then, they knew who they were. David knew who he was. He was a king. Right? But he said, my feet were nigh. Read that again.
He says, my feet were almost gone.
Said I was almost a goner. King David.
Exactly, right? That's
my
crazy.
steps has well nigh slipped.
I almost slipped. You in the street, it's wet out here, you slip. Hey, you going on Instagram, right? You out of here. Are you going viral? Right? You out. Right?
For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked.
That's why he felt like he was almost out of here. Because he became envious at the foolish, wicked people, at the prosperity of them. And this was the most prosperous man in the nation. Right? King David was beautiful. He slayed a lion and a bear. He killed Goliath. Right? This was a mighty man. He killed his 10,000. Saul killed his 1,000, but David killed his 10,000. There were songs about David. right? But he said I was still, even, and that's on a deep level, because the top man of the nation felt like he would, was envious at the wicked at one point. And he felt horrible about that. He had to repent. What's going on, family? Y'all got a minute for a verse real quick? Come get your verse of the day. I know you ain't open the Bible app all day. There we go. All praises, all praises. Can I ask you a question, sister? What does success mean to you?
Good question.
What is your definition of success?
Longevity.
Longevity? Okay. That's I never heard that answer before, right? That's cool. So, we teach our people who they are according to the Bible. I asked that question for a reason, right? But we teach our people who they are according to the Bible. Now, if I were to ask you, what's your nationality, what would you tell me? African American. All right. And I would have, back then I would have said the same thing, right? So, when we read the Bible, we understand that the Bible is composed of a bunch of different nations, right? People came from Abraham, right? Abraham had Isaac, he had Jacob. Jacob had sons, right? So we are the descendants of those sons of Jacob, right? So if you look over here on the sign, it shows you just where you descend from, right? According to your father. Give me Numbers 1 and 18. Right? So whatever your father is, that's what you are. So I'm going to read this verse, and then I'm going to ask you where your father comes from, right?
This is the book of Numbers, chapter 1 and verse 18. And they assembled all the congregation together
So congregation, that's like an assembly, right?
on the first day of the second month. And they declared their pedigrees
Which is like your bloodline, right? Your family lineage, right?
after their families by the house of their fathers.
That's the important part. So it's like y'all two are at a family reunion, and you see Auntie, what's it, right? Auntie Gina, right? Talking about, oh man, you got so big. I remember when I used to change your diapers, this and that, right? But then, they say you look like Uncle Elroy. You know what I'm saying? And they get to start talking like that. So the reason I bring that up is because we know who we are determined by who our father is. Because the man, he carries a seed, right? So, where would you be according to your father? On this sign right here. So you say you was African American, right? Your father African American? So there's a high probability, because a lot of African Americans are actually Native American, right? Just don't know. But it's a high probability that you would be from the tribe of Judah, because that's what the so-called African Americans was. The name was changed to, Negroes, and things of that sort. What about this king right here? African American. So what tribe would you be from? Tribe of Judah, right? If you're African American, you'd be from the tribe of Judah. Got me? All praise to the Most High. Right. So let's get 1 Chronicles 16 and 13. Right. So now that y'all understand, okay, cool, he could tell me I'm African, I ain't African American or whatever. There's a duty that comes behind that, because you got to think, right? You ever seen one of these royal shows? You ever seen Game of Thrones? Bridgerton? I can't think of too many more. But, right, a lot of these shows where it depicts royalty, it has something that's tied to it. Now, a lot of the shows, they depict drama, right? But a lot of times when you're dealing with the royal family, they're protected because they carry out a very important role. They have a kingdom tied to it. Now, us being the children of God, because that's what Israelite means. That's what God called us, first of all. He called us the sons and daughters of God. That's what Israelite means, Prince of God. So us being the children of God, we have a high standard, a high duty, right? Let me get to it. Check this out. Y'all can come under the, if it'll stay on the ground, y'all can come in under the canopy,
This is the book of First Chronicles, chapter 16, verse 13. O ye seed of Israel.
That's y'all. No longer African American or I keep saying Negro, but they don't say that no more. Black. There we go. No longer black, because those are colors, right? And that's two land masses, right?
O ye seed of Israel, his servant. Ye children of Jacob, his chosen one.
It says we're his chosen ones, right?
He is the Lord, our God. His judgments are in all the earth.
So it's very it's specific for a reason. He's the Lord our God. Just keep that in mind. So again, us being his children, let's find out what our duty is. I'm gonna make it fast, okay? I ain't gonna keep y'all out here in the cold all day. Give me that's it on that. Give me Deuteronomy 10 and 12. Let's see what our duty as the children of Israel, as the royal bloodline is, right? Right.
book of Deuteronomy, chapter 10, and verse 12. And now Israel.
Right, that's us. Keep that in mind. I ain't gonna let that go. That's us. Israel, right? From what tribe? There you go. There you go.
And now Israel, what doeth the Lord thy God require of thee?
So this is it, right? This is where it all comes down to. What does God require of us?
But to fear the Lord thy God.
Oh, that's hard. To fear God, to understand that He runs this, everything we do. God is in control, whether it's good or bad, right? Whether you get evicted from your place or whether you come across a treasure chest at the bottom of the ocean, right? God did that. He led you there.
To walk in all his ways and to love him.
And to love God. Now, I know I asked you a question before. You gave me a good answer. Now I'm asking another one. What does it mean to love God?
Good question.
I mean to love God, you know.
Okay.
Serve Him.
Okay.
Have faith in Him.
Okay. Not bad answers, right? What about you? Now, in the Bible, it's a very, very, like they get straight to the point in the Bible. What about you? What do you think it means to love God?
Going to church, praying.
Okay. Praying, getting together with like-minded people that believe. Okay, check this out. Right? Like I said, it's a very simple definition.
This is the book of 1 John, chapter 5, verse 3. It says, for this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous.
Is that the end of the verse? That's it, right? That's it. That's the end of the verse. Is that we keep his commandments, and his commandments, they not grievous. Meaning they shouldn't, you ain't gonna go through pain and struggling and hardship. Well, I can't speak for everybody, but they're not hard to keep, basically, right? There's simple things to do, right? In totality, right? Like, for example, some of them are just moral compass laws, right? Like incest. You know what I'm saying? We can't commit incest. That's in the Bible. That's a part of our laws, right? We can't commit bestiality, right? But then there's things where you kind of have to read because we don't know any better. Like there are certain things we can and cannot eat. There's certain ways we have a dress code. You see what I'm saying? The Lord told us to wear fringes throughout all our generations, right? But, you know, some things you got to read for yourself. You see what I'm saying? So can I get you two of them before you slide? All praise to the Most High. Hey, that's love, right? Give me Leviticus chapter, give me Exodus chapter 2 and verse 32. 2 and 23. Right? So this is one of the laws, right? Now this is something that's not written in the Ten Commandments. Because the Ten Commandments, yes, there are commandments, but it's more than that, right? Those encapsulate, it's like an umbrella term, right? An umbrella can hold a lot of things. I think I described that wrong, right? But you know what I mean, right? It's like a category.
Right? This is the book of Exodus, chapter 2, verse 23. And it came to pass in process of time that the
2 and 23? Let me see. 23 and 2. Salaki. 23 and 2.
This book of Exodus, chapter 23, and verse 2. Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil.
Right? So, thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil. Meaning, don't follow the crowd to try to be like everybody else. When the Lord, give me a Leviticus chapter 20 and 26. When the Lord said, you're supposed to be different. Right? And that's something our people love. We love to be in the in crowd. Love to follow what everybody else is doing. Right? But the Lord said, read that again.
This book of Exodus, chapter 23, verse 2. Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil. Neither shalt thou speak in a call to decline after meaning to wreak judgment.
So point being of that the verse I want to show you, this is a commandment, right? Don't follow after people that do wrong, right? Simple. That's easy. Can we do that? I know sometimes we kind of got to think like, what am I doing right now? Who are these people? Who am I hanging around? You got to consider that. And you got some people that are toxic. You know, that some people that lead you down the wrong path. They say the wrong side of the tracks. Right? You got some people that will literally destroy you, right, over time. They wear you down and you trying to do all you because you love somebody, but at the same time, they're bad for your spirit, right? This is real. Read this out.
Leviticus chapter 20, verse 26. And ye shall be holy unto me.
Right? The word holy just means set apart. So remember, we can't follow after evil because why? We set apart. Got that? You can't follow after everybody, right? You got to follow after what's good, right?
For For I, the Lord, am holy, and have served you from other people.
The Lord said, I'm holy, and I cut y'all off from everybody else. Right? So I'm going to get y'all one more, and I'm going to let y'all slide, okay? That's cool? Cool. All right, what you got? That's what I want.
The book of Leviticus, chapter 11, verse 7.
Start at verse 1. Because remember I said there are certain things that we can and cannot eat. We're going to get into that. This chapter is going into certain foods that we can and cannot eat as the children of God, right? This is one of our duties.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 11, verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses in its way, and saying unto them, speaking to the children of Israel, saying, these are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on earth.
Right, so beasts, right? What comes to mind that you can eat? Chicken. Okay. Give me another one.
Fish.
Fish. Okay. On land.
Okay.
Spinach. Like a beast, like an animal.
Oh,
Yeah.
Say what?
Snake. Okay.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have thought of that.
Steak.
Oh, steak.
Yes.
Okay, I thought he said a snake. Okay. Good. No snakes. All right, cool. So let's get into it. Let's drop down to verse 7.
Okay, verse 7. And the swan.
All right, so the swan, right? So usually sometimes, you go to the grocery store, one of the cheapest cuts you could get is pork, right? So, do y'all like pork? Y'all indulge in pepperoni, sausage, you know what I'm saying? What else? Bacon, right? So let's see what God said about that.
And the swan, though he divide the hoof, it be cloven-footed.
There's requirements to making a land animal clean. It has to do both things. It can't just do one or the other. It has to do both. It has to divide the hoof, meaning, the split in the hoof, and it has to chew the cud, meaning it regurgitates its food, and, it kind of, cleanses itself. Right now, a pig will eat anything. Now, a pig might eat me if I die, right? So, let's see what God said about that pig.
Yet he sheweth not the cud. He is unclean unto you.
God said he's unclean, right? And you don't want to eat something that's unclean, now you're unclean, right? You ever, you wash clothes and you got the lint filter. Are you going to clean the lint filter and kind of start tasting it? Like how they do on, what's that show on TLC? My Strange Addiction? Start tasting them. No, you're not going to do that, right? That's what a pig does. It cleans and filters all the impurities of the water, right?
Of their flesh shall ye not eat, in their carcass shall ye not touch. They are unclean to you.
And that carcass, that's a dead pig, so you can't even touch it. Once it falls over, that's another thing. You can't touch it, right? So let alone eat it. You know what I'm saying? So there's alternatives. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's harder for our people to kind of get on a. Some things are harder than others, right? Some people like ham. You know what I'm saying? But as long as you strive, you gotta cut it off, right? Cold turkey, as they say, right? Because there's, like I said, alternative. You got beef, bacon. You got steak, there we go, right? You got turkey sausage, chicken sausage, better alternative. Because over time, you'll find, because I used to eat pork, you know what I'm saying? I ain't perfect. I used to eat it. And once I started weaning off of it, it started to make me feel sick. The smell of it, right? He gets headaches when he smells pork. That's how bad it is, right? So once you start falling off these things, you realize how bad it is for your body, right? And we're going to get you what comes out of the waters, and that's it, all right?
Okay, this is the book of Leviticus, chapter 11, verse 9. These shall you eat of all that are in the waters, whatsoever have fins and scales.
Two requirements again, right? Lord is playing a game now, right? So two requirements for the beasts of the land. You can eat your chicken, yeah. You can eat your steak, but no pork, right? And then two requirements of what's in the waters, right? So it has to have both fins and scales, right? So what's some things that y'all like that don't got fins and scales? Let's get to the nitty gritty. Y'all like crab boils? Sometimes, okay. Shrimp,
Yeah.
lobster,
Yeah.
catfish, frog legs.
No.
Okay, that's a coastal thing. Oysters. Yeah, that's a good one. You like oysters? Mussels, crawfish. Golly, there's everything, right? But not to say, because we, like I said, we wasn't perfect. We didn't know this either. I was eating, crawfish here and there. I'm from Louisiana. That's what they do down there. That's all they do down there. Shit, right? But the Lord said, right, we got to abstain from these things. Keep going.
Whatsoever have fins and scales in the waters, and in the seas, and in the rivers, them shall you eat.
right? Anything that got fins and scales in any body of water, it could be a lake, it could be a pond, it could be the fountain over across the street. If it got fins and scales, it's Gucci. You can eat a goldfish, you know, if that's your thing, you know. I don't know how much you get out of it, but
Right.
you get your tilapia, you know, your salmon, your bass, right? Your red snapper, your mullet. These things have fins and scales, so they good. You can't eat a shark, no dolphin. Tuna, you might have to be careful with because I know some species got I think yellowfin is good, right? But you just got to make sure, you know, just do your double check. You know, you doing this for the Lord, right? All praises, she said, absolutely, right? So, all praises, y'all are Israelites from what tribe?
Judah.
There we go. From what tribe? There we go. Can I eat pork?
No.
Okay. What about squid? Calamari? Why not?
I don't know.
Because it doesn't have what? There you go, fins and scales. There we go. He gonna back you up when you need help. He gonna back you up. All praise to the Most High. So with that, hey, that's it. We got a flyer, of course. Y'all are Israelites. Y'all are family, right? But we gonna hook y'all up with some flyers. It's gonna have some more commandments on there. YouTube channel, email if y'all got any questions. All right.
Absolutely.
Y'all stay safe and stay dry. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All praises. Shalom. Kwame Yashua. Israel rise. All right, let's go back to Psalm 73. I'm gonna close out at 7.
Book of Psalms, chapter 73, in verse 4. I'm gonna just start 3 again. For I was envious and foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For there are no bands in their depth.
Hey, they're not tied down by anything. They can do whatever they want to get away with it, right? That's why it tells us, right? They hold themselves not guilty, right? They rob and spoil, right? They kill and steal, right? This whole land was gotten by deceit, by deception, by murder, by pestilence, by destruction, right? By all these broken treaties, right? But they still, to this day, speak loftily of oppression and hold themselves not guilty, right? And have cut completely, well, not completely because the Lord left the remnant, but cut off the sons and daughters of the living God. But you're not guilty. The Lord is going to get up with you, right? Because you have completely destroyed and profaned his holy children's name. Now they're walking around with furries, man. And Esau's destroyed, man.
But their script, but their script is firm.
Hey, their strength is firm. You walk into their neighborhood though, and you kind of might want to get out of it, you know, because they'll intimidate you. And now they're starting to hang our people again, right? They're starting to, you know, Jake is found hanging from a lamppost, and now it's declared as a suicide. That wasn't a suicide. that was a foul play, as they say, right? But they hold themselves not guilty. Right? These are our oppressors that still walk among us, and we still hand in hand, kumbaya, trying to make an excuse for them. That's the craziest part about it, right? We always so willing to love and to make excuses for other people, but when something happens to us, we march and we shout and we demand reparations. But then when we don't get them, and they distract us. Kendrick Lamar drop a song, then you drop a diss track, right? And we back to that docile state. That's why the Lord said Judah is like a young lion's whelp. Right? Who is going to wait, you know, where's an old lion? Right? You said what? Yeah, rise them up. There we go. I was getting confused, right? Because we're docile. We're like a dormant volcano. Now, it has the possibility to erupt and cause all hell, right? But it's dormant, right? Ain't no smoke coming out of it. It's been dormant for 10 years. It's damn near just a rock at that point, right? It's vague, right? Keep going. What's going on, family? How y'all doing? Can I show y'all something in the Bible real quick? It's that fast, right? Bring it up.
Verse 5 of Psalm 73. They are not in trouble as other men.
Right? They are not in trouble as other men, right? You call the police because you need help. If they're gonna ask you what your race is, you know, they're gonna ask for details. Like they might kind of take their time. You already dead. You dead on arrival, right? But then, you know, let one of them, you know, kind of get in there, you know, call 911. Hey, they found you out. Everything, right?
Neither are they plagued like other men.
They're not plagued like other men. That's why they can walk around like furries. They got the furry convention going on, you know. And it's just, you know, that's just what they do, right? But when we try to host an event, it gets shut down. We get noise complaints, right? We can't even have a barbecue in the backyard. We get noise complaints, right? That's when they gentrify the hood. You never hear noise complaints about in the hood. But now the hood is getting gentrified. They're building stadiums and all these different types of things. Now we get noise complaints, right? You can't make this stuff up, man.
It says, therefore pride compass them about as a shame.
And they walk with their, chest all out. And I'm not just making this about Esau, right? This is about the nations, regardless, right? Even if the wicked Jake too, right? This is everybody that doesn't serve and is not under the will and power. Well, everybody's under the will regardless, but are not under the protection of the Lord.
That's right.
Right? They walk up, chest all out, proud, don't want to hear brothers are crazy. Don't want to hear no words of the scriptures, right? But can, find a way to make the money, find a way to just do whatever they want, right?
Continue on verse 6. Violence covereth them as a garment.
And violence covered them as a garment, right? Meaning that head to toe, they're finding ways, right, to do evil. Violence isn't always, I take a chainsaw and cut your arm off. No, violence can be, you're spiritually violent, right? You find ways to get a brother destroyed. You find ways to cover somebody's thing. Look at how Jezebel was, right? She wasn't physically violent when she took that field, right? She kind of plotted that thing, right, and made that, the man surrender his field, right?
Verse 7 of Psalm 73. Their eyes stand out with fatness.
Meaning they have all that they can wish for. These people in these big condos and these skyscrapers at the top floor in these penthouses, right, and can afford to travel around the world. Some people travel. Atlanta's a very popular travel destination. What's going on, brother? Hey, come under the tent, man. It's wet out here. How you feeling, bro? You don't have to be on camera. Port? Yeah. You said what?
Just a moment ago about Ford.
Yeah.
So, in the scripture, it says that those who value one day over the other, let them be. I'm all there.
Yeah.
About meat. We all need, we all need. So when they sing for people, they sing for the Lord.
Okay.
Accepts for both.
Right.
But
So-
to proclaim that this is where they're supposed to be, to where you have to not be for preaching it out of the Bible, that that's necessary.
Yeah.
That God said that.
So, what is the gospel? What does the gospel mean? What does the gospel mean? Yeah, like what does the word gospel mean? So, I feel you.
It means salvation.
Okay. The word gospel means good news, right? So, the reason why we say we went into, we're not supposed to be eating pork because our people are given laws, right? And we can prove that through the scriptures. Now, the whole thing about it is we're up here to teach our people who they are, because I know you might have just heard that strip of what I was going into, right? So we are here to teach our people who they are according to the Bible, right? And according to the Bible, we're the Israelites. Now, the Israelites were given commandments from God to abstain from certain things and to do certain things, correct? Just like how your parents, they give you commandments, like make up your bed and things like that, right? Hold on, I gotta finish, right? So if we do the commandments of the Lord, he said he will bless us. But if we don't, he said that we will be cursed. Now, one of those commandments is that we have a dietary law. That's what I was going into about the pork. The Lord said we have to abstain from certain, and pork was just one of the examples, right? Because what you were going into earlier when it says abstaining from meats, right? There are certain people that will teach that we cannot eat meat, right? And that is false. Because once a year, we are commanded to take of the Passover meal, right? And that Passover meal includes meat, lamb, right? So that's going into what you're talking about. How men in the latter days will command that we are not supposed to eat meat, which is a real thing that's going on right now, right? But when we go back to the laws of the Lord, right, all the way in the Torah, right, it tells us that we literally cannot eat certain things such as pork. We literally cannot eat certain things such as food with things out of the waters that don't have fins and scales. It's written, right? I'm not just picking. I can literally prove to you and show you and actually give you the scripture where to find these so you can read for yourself. Because I don't want nobody to believe my own words, right? Just how I'm not going to believe anything you tell me for granted. I want to see it out of the Bible, right? So, go ahead. Yeah, what you said was in the Bible. Yeah, that's true, right? But the way that you broke it down, it was incorrect. I understand that, but I know what you're talking. I understand the context of what you were coming from. I know what you're talking about, right? I understand where you were coming from. Don't get me wrong, because I've dealt with this same argument a million times over, right? But when you read, because that's not even in the same testament, right, as what we're reading from, right? We're reading from the Old Testament where it talks about the dietary law, because that's where you find the laws, right? In the New Testament, you have people in certain churches, right, with certain doctrines and philosophies that they're passing on that were not written, right? Because the scriptures tell us, hey, some men are going to walk in their own lust, right, and they're going to profess things, right, and having their conscience seared with a hot iron to people with itching ears. Meaning anybody that's willing to listen, they're going to follow this doctrine. And if I follow all these different doctrines, it gets jumbled up and nobody understands what the truth is anymore.
Right.
Does that make sense? Right? So if I follow 1,000 different denominations, I'm not going to know their origin. I'm going to be, give me a Sirach 3 and 21. That's why we say, thus saith the Lord. That's why we speak straight out of the Bible. Right?
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 3 and verse 21. Seek not out the things that are too hard for thee, neither search the things that are above thy strength. But what is commanded thee, think thereupon with reverence.
Right? And that's it. What is commanded upon us, which is in the law, which is the dietary law, which is going into not eating pork, it says think thereupon with reverence, meaning pay more close attention to those things rather than the doctrines and the philosophies of men. Do we slay lambs and goats? No, because Christ, he was the atonement for our sins, right? That's what he's the testator. That's where you get the difference, the difference, my bad, between the Old Testament and the New Testament. Because Christ being that sacrifice or testator, he was the one that put all that sacrificing to an end. To where now, our sacrifice now is showing repentance and fruits, meat for repentance. To where all I have to do is, it's action behind it. But now I don't have to go get a lamb, because what they were doing back then is they was being wicked, right? Still going to grab a sacrifice and saying, as long as I got my sacrifice, I'm Gucci, right? To now, it's like, no, it has to be in your spirit. You have to repent and actually change your ways, right? Now it's a little more strict in a sense, but at the same time, Christ made it more lenient to where I can't go get a goat and sacrifice, because who am I sacrificing? Where the Levites at? You know what I'm saying? It took all these things, we had a temple, we had all these different types of things, and things were set up very specific. We don't have that no more. We're in the middle of Atlanta, right? One of the freakiest spots in America. Who am I going to sacrifice to? You see what I'm saying? You said what?
Jesus brought the life, the truth in the word. He is the word.
Absolutely. And we follow after Christ. Now, you say Christ sent his spirit? What you mean by that? It's okay to not know, brother.
It's a promise of God.
Now, okay, I'm glad you brought that up. Now, who was the promises given to? Is it anybody, like the whole world, or just a group of people? All right, now I'm going to show you. Because there's only one, even with that, it's only written that one group of people was going to believe, right? Now, that's not talking about the whole, because people can say Jesus Christ all day long. They can scream it from the hills. But we believe in the Most High, whose name is Yahweh, right, out of the Bible, and his son, Yahweh Shai, which is who the world calls Christ, right? Now bring this out.
1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 9.
I'm going to show you who these promises were for, because it's all throughout the prophets. Have you ever read the book of Jeremiah, the book of Isaiah, You ever read those books in like the totality? And that's okay, brother. I'm not here to shame you. Don't think I'm trying to, make you look crazy. I'm not, right? I'm here to edify you because you're my brother, right? But those books, when you read the latter chapters, it talks about the new covenant and who they were given to, right? Now, this verse is going to pretty much sum up who it was given to and what it is. Bring this out.
1 Peter 2:9. But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation.
Right? A chosen generation, a holy priesthood, a holy nation. Holy just means set apart. So with this nation is set apart from every other nation on the earth. Keep going.
Says, a peculiar people, that ye should show forth the praise of him whom have called you out of the darkness into the marvelous light.
Now give me Romans 9:4. Right? So it's showing you who these people are. That verse alone showed you that this was set up for a set apart holy people. Right? Now I'm going to get the second part of I'll say my breakdown for this, right? Start at verse 3.
It says, this is the book of Romans chapter 9 and verse 3. For I could wish that myself were accursed from Christ.
Now, quick question. Do you know who wrote the book of Romans? So who? That's right. That's right. Now, this is Paul speaking, right? He said, I myself could wish that I went through the same things Christ went through. Why?
For my brethren.
For his brethren. Now, who would be your brethren? Who would you say on a personal level, who would be your brethren? So, brethren speaking in the term of kinship, meaning your family, right? Now, a lot of times throughout the scriptures, you'll see Israel is likened unto a family, right? Because we are all the same blood. It doesn't matter if you're light skin or dark skin, right? It doesn't matter if you have pale skin, right? It's not about color, right? That's a big misconception with the Israelites, is that we look on your color and that's it. No, because you have people who are high yellow, as they say. You have people who are extremely dark, right? But we are all the same people. That's why we show this poster right here, because you see Logic right here. He looks like a white man, so-called white man, but he's from the tribe of Judah. See what I'm saying? Right? So it's not about color. It's literally all about your bloodline, and it was like that from the beginning of time. Now let's continue on that.
For I could wish that myself were accursed from Christ, for my brother.
Now this is talking about for Israel, right? I'm gonna throw it out there. This is talking about Israel. For my brethren is Israel.
My kinsmen according to the flesh.
Kinsmen, that's your family. Now when you read Numbers 1 and 18, it shows you who your kinsmen are. It's your nation, your people. So-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. That is your kinsmen. This is we're your kinsmen. We're your brothers, right?
Who are Israelites.
It tells you right there. Who are Israelites? That's your kinsmen. And this book was written by Paul, a Benjamite of the tribe of the seed of Israel, right, to his kinsmen, which are other Israelites from all the rest of the 12 tribes, right? It didn't say for the Edomites. It didn't say for the Moabites, which would be your so-called white, your so-called Chinese, the Ammonites, the Japanese. It didn't give any of the rest of the nations. It's literally all talking about Israel, right? Keep going.
To whom pertain the adoption and the glory.
That adoption is being grafted back in. When it talks about the Gentiles were the Israelites that fell away into various lusts and idolatry. That's why they went into captivity, first to the Assyrians, then the Babylonians, then the Greeks, the Medes and Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, and now the Americans. And now, through all those different captivities, we've been scattered to where we fell away, don't know who we are, we're calling ourselves black, right? We're calling ourselves Mexican, we're calling ourselves Native Americans, right? We're not calling ourselves Israelites, right? Those are the ones that need to be grafted back in, come back into the fold of who they are.
That's right.
Right? Keep going.
In the glory, in the covenants.
Right? In that covenant, the old covenant was given to us, and the new covenant was given to us. It can't be the old covenant was given to us, but the new covenant is for everybody. That would make no sense, because the Lord made a promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He didn't make a promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Esau. Abraham, Jacob, and Ishmael. He made a very specific covenant for a very specific bloodline. That makes sense? All praises. So this covenant, the kingdom of heaven, would be for our people. Give me Matthew chapter 15. Matthew 15. Give me Matthew 1 and 21. Yeah, we done. You got a little more time on you, King? All praise to the Most High. Like I said, this all love. We're not trying to shame you. We're not trying to make you look crazy. It's this all because we love you, King. We want you to get a understanding of your own book, right? Of your own. This is a book of heritage, right? Actually, I want you to hold that. Give me Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4, right? You give me Matthew 1 and 21.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 1 and verse 21. And she shall bring forth a son.
Now, who is this talking about? Read that again.
And she shall bring forth a son.
Now, who do you think that's talking about? Who is known to bring forth a very special son? Exactly, right? You're on point.
And thou shalt call his name Jesus. For he shall save his people from their sins.
Very important. See how he emphasized it. He shall save his people. Who are his people? Well, same people that Paul was talking about, right? Because where did Christ come from? He came from the seed line of Judah, right? Paul came from Benjamin, right? But they are both Jews. They are both Israelites according to the Bible. Keep going. Read that again. He shall save his people from what?
And he shall save his people from their sins.
Right? Now, what is sin? Or what is your best definition of sin? You say what? That's okay. That's okay. Sin, all sin is the transgression of the law. You know how we have laws in America, like you can't drive through a red light? What happens if you drive through that red light? You get a ticket. Because why? You transgress the laws of America. You trespass those laws. Now, the Israelites were given laws, right? That's where you get the commandments and things of that sort, right? Like the pork. That was a law given to the Israelites by Moses. The Lord was speaking through Moses to tell the Israelites that, right? So, if we transgress those laws, that's sin, right? And Christ came to help those who are caught in sin, right? So if the law was given to Israel, and Israel, if they break the law, they commit sin, and Christ is coming to relieve those sins, then that's a clear structure to show that Christ came to relieve those that are under the law, which is Israel.
Right.
See what I'm saying? Not convinced? Let's get Matthew 15. Oh, actually, give me Jeremiah.
Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 4. And thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thy heritage.
It's speaking to you, brother. It says, it's speaking to all of us, really. But it says, we as a people are going to be the only people on the earth to discontinue ever from their heritage. Now, if I ask, and this is for educational purposes, right? If I were to ask a white person, what is their heritage? They could tell me they're German, they're 15% Irish. They'll tell me, they're Scottish. They could tell me all these European countries and land masses that they can go to. If I ask a Chinese person, they might tell me. I had a friend when I was in a sophomore, and she told me she was from Laos. I've never heard of Laos. I always thought she was just Chinese. You know what I'm saying? Right? Not to be that guy, but I always thought she was just Chinese. No, she said she was from Laos. I didn't even know that was a country. So I'm saying that to say, these other nations, they can point back and pinpoint where they go to because they have history. We have a very rich history, but thing is, we've been cut off from knowing our history because of all the different captivities we've been in and from the separation that it's caused, right? That point?
Isaac, Abraham, Jacob, all survived.
I mean, there was plenty in between. You had Seth and Cain and Abel and
All goes down to the line of David, right?
who? The line of David, that comes from, okay, it's in Matthew the 1st chapter, right? We ain't got to read all of it, right? But you have Adam. Adam had kids. It goes down to Abraham, then Isaac, then Jacob. Jacob had the 12 sons through the seed line of David, right? You get Jesse, or you ever seen the book of Ruth? You ever read the book of Ruth? Okay, so Ruth married Obed, or no, Boaz. Was it Boaz? Boaz. Then Boaz I'm sure he begat Jesse. Jesse was the father of David. Mind you, this is all from the line of Judah, right? Jesse begat Solomon, Solomon begat Rehoboam, and so on and so forth. That's where you get the seed line of the kings, right? So David, he comes from the seed line of Judah. Christ, he comes from the seed line of Judah. More than likely, you yourself, if your father's a so-called African American, you would come from the seed line of Judah.
Revelation 5 and 5.
Bring it out. Revelation 5 and 5. Right? Is that making sense, brother? We're talking about both. There is no separation. We don't separate the old from the new. The only difference between... There's a separation. That separation is being the sacrifices. And Christ being the testator, when you read Hebrews, it tells you, right? Him being that sacrifice to end animal sacrifices. He did? Yeah. There was a remnant.
Right, right?
Yeah.
So, the reason of the flooding is that the earth wicked continues.
That's right.
God's always wanting the earth. We
Okay.
we exterminated the giants, the angels that made it, the women, and the foul. They're not truly,
Yeah.
they're not truly the image of God.
Right.
They're rebellion of the Father.
That's right. And
So, I'm trying to get at is that it all comes down to that.
can I ask you a question?
You're separated nations, bro. We all have native Israel. We all have a native language. God is separated.
So what is yours?
What I'm trying to say is that we're separate in different languages and calling nations even calling. They're all just one.
Who is we? Let me ask you a question, because you made a point. You brought up Noah and that there's going to be a remnant. Do you believe the Lord is going to do that again? Now, who is going to be the remnant? You said what?
Said it would be after
But who would be that remnant that makes it into the kingdom? Because there's going to be, you ever heard of the 144,000? That's in the Bible. Now, out of that 144,000, it talks about the gates, the 12 gates that they're going to enter in at, correct? In the book of Revelation. And those 12 gates are for the 12 tribes of Israel. It tells you it's going to be 12,000 from every tribe, right? 12,000 from the tribe of Judah, and the tribe of Benjamin, Levi, all the way down to Simeon, right? They didn't say there was a gate for Esau. They didn't say we. It said the Bible says, though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not be unpunished. You have a lot for, give me additions to Esther 10 and 10, right? Because you have two lots created. You have a lot for the righteous, and you have a lot for the wicked and the heathen, right? Because the heathen, they don't keep the law. So they're automatically categorized. They have their own false gods, to where the point, now we believe in their gods. How is it that you have a Buddhist, so-called black man, right? And a Muslim, our people are into the Nation of Islam, right? God never told us to be Islamic and Muslim, right? Bring this out.
Book of Additions to Esther, 10 verse 10. Therefore have he made two lots.
This is God. God made two lots, meaning two destinies, two paths, right?
One for the people of God and another for all the Gentiles.
Stop right there. It said one for the people of God. It didn't say one for all nations, and everybody could come in. No, it says one lot, one path, one destiny for the people of God, right? And then what's the other one?
And another for the Gentiles.
For the Gentiles, meaning the heathen, right? Now, you have the heathen of our people. Give me a Zechariah chapter 13 and verse 8. Yeah, 13 and 8. You have the Gentiles which, hey, some of the 2/3 of our people are categorized as Gentiles. Why? Because they act like heathen. The Lord said y'all are going to be the heathen, right? But those that return and do my commandments, they're going to be my remnant. That 1/3 that enters into my rest, right? And keep in mind that I'm bringing all of this out of, this is none of my own opinion. I can go to a Bible verse to prove all of this, because this is out of the Bible. I couldn't make this up. I wouldn't make this up.
You said define the gospel, right? The good news.
Yeah,
The gospel is simple.
the gospel just means good news.
The good news liberates. It doesn't put.
No. Let me ask you this. Of all nations of the earth, and we're going to still get this verse, but of all nations of the earth, who needs deliverance? Of all nations of the earth. Because the earth is made up of, you got Ethiopian, you got Russian. Of every nation that's on the earth, what nation needs saving the most? Who's under what? I'll put it like this. Of all nations of the earth, only one nation of people is cursed in the Bible. Right? It's a whole chapter dedicated to going into those curses that these people are under. Those people are the Israelites. Right? The Lord said in Deuteronomy 28 and 15, give me that real quick. Deuteronomy 28 and 15, we're going to be cursed if we don't do his commandments. So that salvation is saving us from not only sin, but saving us from those curses that we're still under to this day, right? And those curses are very specific. It talks about curses about going into captivity and the slavery on slave ships, right? The curses are very specific. You said what?
That's what the slaves wanted the black people to believe in the concept that he's saying. That's what they wanted to believe. No, that's not the
Hold on, what slaves?
slave owners.
Now, that's not true, because the slave owners gave us slave Bibles. Now, when you have a 1611, right, or a KJV, this is the Bible in its entirety, right? Now, when they gave us a Bible and they gave us a place to worship, they were beating out our heritage, like we read in Jeremiah 17:4, beating out our heritage and showing us and renaming us, shaving us, right, and stripping us of our heritage. You think when we came on the plantations and they started calling us Toby and Brian and Todd, right, and Sam, that we knew who we were? That we were holding on, we were barely holding on. That it fizzled out. That was all we had left. And they beat it out of us. So now you're calling yourself an African American when that's a continent plus a country mixed together, and you're neither of those things. To where our people can comfortably call themselves black, but if I want to go into a Asian market and I would say, hey, I want the yellow man to bring me carrots, right? They would be offended, but we're not offended, right? When we're called the darkest color, meaning evil, dirtiness, darkness, death. The word black is tied to all these evil things, but we're so comfortable being called it, right? That's a curse, brother. That's a proverb and a byword in the Bible, right? So the good news is that we're going to be delivered from being called those things. That's just one of the things. The new covenant is us being delivered and saved from being all these different types of things, from being under the necks of all these other people that don't love us, that hate us. You go on Twitter, they'll tell you about yourself. You know, these nations, they got burner accounts, and they say, yeah, these people, they need to go back to where they came from. They're monkeys and this and that, and they'll do that under a burner account. How much more would they say it to your face if they had free liberty? See what I'm saying? So these nations, as much as our people have a big heart and they're loving and caring, right? These nations don't care about us. They never have, right? That's why we're still in the hood. And they're pushing us, raising the price of the rent, pushing us out of our very low-income apartment to now more and more of our people are becoming homeless. Like 5 homeless people walked by in the span of since we started out here. And they were all our people. That's a curse, right? The Lord said we was going to be cursed in the city and cursed in the field, right? So we need deliverance and salvation from these curses, right? Because we're being oppressed. We don't know who we are, right? We have nothing to rely on except God at this point. We're first, fired, last time. We can't hold down a job to take care of ourselves. We can't go to the grocery store and just get what we want willy-nilly because we don't got the money for it, for one. We get made fun of when we use Snap. They're canceling Snap, right? And then on top of that, we don't own none of this stuff, right? we get, you know, it's a lot I could go into. But for the sake of time, just know that we're the people of this book, and that the Lord, He's coming to help us. He's coming to save us. It's all over the Bible. In every book, you will find something that talks about our people, right? And the gospel is shedding positive light on what's going to happen to us in the latter times, right? Does that make sense? But does it make sense? I'm putting a focus on the nations because that's the where you seem to have the biggest disagreements at. That's why I'm putting a focal point on it, because we need to get our people to understand we have nothing because we didn't keep the law, right? The gospel is simple.
I came first and foremost about the court.
Yeah.
I gave you scriptures and grace. I didn't need that scripture.
Right. Now did we clear that up?
Some of the Old Testament try to make you think a little bit.
But brother, you gotta understand. Like I said, I've heard this discourse before, right? You're not the first person to come with me with the same questions, because I've been, out here for years doing this. So I've read it before, I've heard it before, I've read for myself. You see what I'm saying? And I have an understanding of what it's going into, right? And through the Spirit, we answered those questions that you had, right? Through the precepts, through the Bible, right? Like I said, we're not, huh? What does that matter? What does that matter? What does my age have to do with this? How old are you? And I'll tell you. 23. Did that solve anything? Hold on. So me talking about the curses.
I'm talking about like 40 years, 23. I'm talking about like 40 years ago. Right.
That's racism never died, brother. That's what we're trying to tell you. Just because a so-called white man can pat you on the back and shake your hand and give you a job opportunity doesn't mean he loves you. That means you're going to work for him to get paid in 2 weeks' time, brother. That doesn't mean just because people are outright hanging us, which they are. Go to Alabama, right? Ahmaud Arbery, right here on the sign right here, was hanged, right? So just because they're not outwardly out there with the white caps and a Confederate flag in your lawn burning crosses doesn't mean they're not racist, right? They could be racist and behind closed doors and plot against you. You got fired from one job, and I'm not saying you personally, but this happens. You gotta understand it's more than just you. It's beyond you. Because this brother has 40 plus years of experience of life and can tell you what he's been through, right? With these same people. And it's not just white people. We don't just talk about white people all day. There's more things that occupy our brains than just talking about the heathen. We talk about our people because we get on our people, all day, because we want to see them do better, right? We love our people. That's the whole point. Now, I would be a fool to sit up here and go back and forth all day about the same thing because we're going in circles, right? But Lord willing, you have an understanding of what we're talking about. Now, because like I said, I already answered these questions. I don't want to go in a circle. It's raining out here. See what I'm saying? It would defeat the purpose. It would really defeat the purpose. So I mean, I have a flyer. You know what I'm saying, with our information. I can't hear you.
I leave this tent. Go about my way. All you guys in your heart, all you guys said out of your mouth, basically saying,
go be fair. What do you mean by that? Go be fair, go be well. What are you talking about? Now, hold on. Because you came up here with a question, right? Now, usually, people, they kind of approach, we ask them what their nationality is. Now, one of your biggest contentions is that it's not about nationality, right? So it wouldn't make sense for me to try to prove to you, your nationality, this and that, which we've already tried, hold on, let me finish. Which defeated the purpose because you still don't see what we're talking about. So like I said, it would make no sense for me to constantly go in the same circles if you don't see what we're talking about. If yeah, hold on, but did you provide any scriptures, brother? Because like I said, we're providing you what we feel, not even what we feel, what's in the Bible through the scriptures. You know, you paraphrase one verse and that was it. I mean, I would say I know how to contest for the faith. I'll say that. Right? The scriptures tell us we gotta know how to contest for the faith, right? Meaning we can't be tossed to and fro with everything that we come. We have to stand on something. You either stand on something or fall for everything. We have to stand for what we believe in. And we know what we believe in is true because we see the accounts back and forth in the Bible. Like I said, this isn't our first rodeo. You know what I'm saying? And it's not to make anybody look foolish. You know, we're not out here to make you look bad. We're out here because we teaching you because we love you, brother. That's it. That's all it comes down to. Right? But I mean, if you got a different viewpoint and you don't see mine, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Lord willing, the Lord shows you what we mean. God. And all praise to the Most High, King. Right? Can we get you a flyer? If we get you a flyer, will you look into it? It's just a sealed paper. Are you going to look into it, though? Be honest. Shalom. So with that, all praise to the Most High. Kwame Shalom. Shalom.
We on them highways, working non-stop on the block with them sisters. Just to bring out the word for you, 'cause you never heard the truth before. I know it's true. I care for you, big love for you. Standing 10 toes down on them highways every Saturday and Friday, yeah.